Hello, welcome back to Queen Aphelian's channel. I'm Queen Aphelian, and I will be delivering the unfiltered truth outside of your realm of knowledge. I wanted to do a video today discussing where can black people go in America to feel safe. Here's something a lot of black people will not tell you, but deep down inside, they do not feel safe anywhere they go. Black people live by completely different rules than white people. For instance, if you're a black person and you purchase a drink in another store, how many of you will take that drink into another store? See, with me, I probably wouldn't. And the reason why I wouldn't is because I do not want them to think that I stole the drink out of their store. So a lot of us will take that drink or other merchandise to the car before we go into another store. And we shouldn't have to feel like that. So I want to start the discussion off by talking about a young 19-year-old woman by the name of Renisha McBride. Now this event occurred on November 2nd, 2013. Now I'm going to paraphrase the events here, but what ended up happening, some people say she was speeding, but either way, she ended up hitting a parked car. She got up, walked away from the scene, and when she returned to the scene, she was discombobulated. And the owner of the parked car called 911 to report the incident. And what ended up happening is Renisha had walked to a home. Now, this occurred in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. She had walked to a home and started banging on the door. Now, the homeowner, he was a white male by the name of Theodore Wafer. Theodore Wafer thought someone was breaking into his home. This occurred in the early morning hours. Now, truth be told, if someone's banging on my door, I would not automatically think they were breaking in because thieves do not bang on your door. Thieves climb in through windows and they do things very quietly. However, I would have been alarmed with someone banging on my door. What ended up happening is this young woman was shot in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun, and obviously she had no chance of survival. She passed away. Now, what Theodore told the cops and everyone during his trial was that he accidentally fired this 12-gauge shotgun at this 19-year-old woman and hit her in the face. He shot through the door. Now, here's my problem. You do not accidentally shoot a 12-gauge shotgun. And let me explain something else. If someone is banging on your door in the early morning hours, most of us would look out a window or look out the kitchen window to see if we could see the door, to see who is banging on our door. That's what I would do. Now, I'm almost sure he looked out some type of window to see a black woman standing on his front porch, and when he didn't recognize her, he got scared and thought she was an intruder or someone trying to bring him harm, and he shot through his door and killed her. Now here's my thing. If he had looked out his window and saw a group of non-black women, or let's say he looked out his door and saw a group of non-black men, or maybe he looked out his window and just saw a white teenager standing there, do you think he would have fired that shot? He probably would have talked to that person through the door, asked them what they were doing there, and once they explained that they needed help, he probably would have either called 911 himself or he would have opened the door. See, this is the thing you have to realize. Whether you're male or female, if you're black, you scare some people. And that's why he shot through the door. Now, like I said, unfortunately, this woman passed away. She was 19 years old. But it goes to show, you cannot crash your car and you cannot go looking for help. So what's this say to the rest of the black people here in America? If I was out driving late and I happened to crash my car and my cell phone was dead, like in the case of Renisha McBride, her cell phone died, what do you think is the next thing most people would do? Most people would be out of options. They can't call a family member or friend, so they would have to sit there. Who in their right mind would sit there after a crash? Your first thing to do would be to go get help. But since this happened, now black people can't go get help after a crash without fearing that if they knock on the wrong person's door, they will be shot and killed. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look at another case, the famous case of Trayvon Martin. Now here we have a 17-year-old teenager who he was staying at the home of his dad's fiance. What ended up happening is His dad and his dad's fiance, they had went on a date somewhere and had left Trayvon Martin alone home with her son. So both teenagers were at home playing video games. Sometime during that, Trayvon Martin decided to get up and go to the 7-Eleven in the neighborhood. He went and he got Skittles and he got tea. The Skittles were for his dad's fiance's son. Well, upon returning home from the store, George Zimmerman spotted him and said he looked suspicious. Now, Trayvon Martin, at the time of his death, he was 5 feet 11 inches. He was skinny. Now, see, here's another problem that we face. Whenever you have a male, a black male especially, who is tall, he automatically looks threatening. So George Zimmerman spotted him, said he looked suspicious, and called the police, and after that an altercation happened. Now, see, what had happened was there had been a lot of recent break-ins, so that's why Trayvon looked suspicious. He looked suspicious because he was looking around. Now, let me explain something to a lot of y'all who don't know. There's many times I am outside, I'm, late at night, walking and different things like that. I look around myself. If I'm walking through a neighborhood, if I'm getting some exercise because I don't have enough time to do it during the day, I look around myself. I want to see who's looking at me. I want to see who's creeping up on me. If I'm walking by a ditch, I look in a ditch. If I hear a rustle somewhere, I turn around. Sometimes it could be a dog. Sometimes it could be a cat. If someone comes out on their front porch, I look to see, who it is on their front porch. When you're outside and you're alone, you look at everyone because you're trying to assess their threat to you. So, with that being said, I'm pretty sure Trayvon Martin was looking around. I'm pretty sure he was looking to see who was looking at him and his surroundings. And see, this for a black man is suspicious because now whoever's watching you think you're looking around because you're trying to see who is looking at you before you do a break-in. So I'm not going to give the details of what happened after he walked up on Trayvon, but the child was killed, and he was a child. He wasn't even 18 years old yet. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look at a case in Greensboro, North Carolina, where a young man by the name of, I want to say, Dewan Yorsay, he was sitting on the steps of his mother's house, and someone called and said he looked suspicious. When the cops pulled up on him, they asked him a ton of questions, and this man complied with everything they asked him. He stated this was his mother's house. He stated it was locked. He stated that he could not get in. The cops said, well, we got a call that someone said you look suspicious. He said, how do I look suspicious? I'm just sitting on this front porch. And I'm pretty sure if me and you go on here on YouTube, you can find the video. And after this man complied with everything they asked him to do, he was still arrested, thrown to the ground, punched in the face, and everything else. What ended up happening was he tried to make a phone call, and the cops said, okay, that's enough there. Tried to take the cell phone from him, and then, the altercation ensued. But you cannot sit on the front porch of your own mother's house without appearing suspicious. I've seen black teenagers stand places and loiter, and they get in trouble. But if you have a group of white teenagers sitting up there loitering, sitting on top of a fence, or sitting anywhere outside of a store, no one is going to call the cops on these white teenagers because they don't appear suspicious. But you let a group of black teenagers get together for any reason, standing outside, they could be completely talking about video games. Those black teenagers huddled up together in that group look suspicious. Therefore, black people always have to have somewhere to go. They always have to have some place to be. They always have to have some place to live. Because if they don't, they look suspicious just standing outside doing absolutely nothing. This takes me back to a couple of years ago. Well, I won't say a couple of years ago, but it was well over 10 years ago. I was sitting out in a parked car at my boyfriend's apartment complex. And he and I was just sitting in the car, and he was playing music. And we were just sitting there chilling. We were just sitting there talking. Well, what ended up happening was a cop who had lived in the same apartment complex, He came home from work, and or a security guard, whoever he was, he just came home from work and he parked, and I noticed he kept looking at us. We noticed he kept looking at us. So finally, he was about to go to his apartment. He turns around and he walks up to my boyfriend and he goes, "Do y'all live here?" And we both said at the same time, "He lives here." And he was like, "Okay," and he got up and walked off. Now I'm thinking to myself, why would you want to know if we live there? See, we're not allowed to sit in the parking lot. We're not allowed to sit in the parking lot and listen to music, and this happened at night. So black people need to be in the house at night. Now let me go ahead and pull up the definition of loiter real quick. Um, Loiter means to stand or wait around idly or without an apparent purpose. See, they have these anti-loitering laws. You'll see them posted on top of buildings and things like that where people are not supposed to stand there and loiter. That means you can't stand there and wait without a purpose or without a cause, or you will be breaking the law. Now tell me this. Why would there be a law against standing there without a purpose? So you mean to tell me I just can't decide to walk to the corner store, stand there, nothing to do, just want to look up at the sky, take in a deep breath? You mean to tell me I can't stand around and do that? I've been to stores getting gas and I've seen all kind of races outside of these stores loitering, Hispanics, whites. No one ever calls the cops on them. But let a group of black people get together and start loitering without a purpose, they get the cops called on them. Now, this takes me back to the vagrancy laws. And if anybody doesn't know what the vagrancy laws are, I'm about to tell you what they are. Now, I'm taking this directly from Wikipedia, just so I won't make a mistake. And it reads, after the American Civil War, some southern states passed black codes. Black codes, okay? Laws that try to control freed blacks. Now they're freed slaves, but now we must control them. We can't have free black people walking around. We must make that a crime. You see how silly that sounds? You see how stupid and dumb that sounds? They're no longer slaves, they're free. But because we're scared, we can't have them walking around. So we must come up with a law to help out fear. Okay? Going back to Wikipedia. Vagrancy laws were included in these codes. So you have black codes, and it included vagrancy laws. Homeless, unemployed black Americans were arrested and fined as vagrants. So you're just getting out of slavery. You're unemployed. Now you're a criminal. Going back, usually the person could not afford the fine and so was sent back to work in convict leasing camps. In these camps is where they would remain paying their debt and inevitably being re-enlisted back into slavery by white slaveholders. So, do you see how much of a big bottled up mess that is? So you were a slave, you didn't learn to read and write, so now you're released, you're on your own, you're walking around, you're free. This scares white people. So white people have to come up with a law, a vagrancy law that says, hey, if you're unemployed, you're loitering, you're walking around, you can't do that, we'll arrest you. And then once they arrest you, you sit there and you have to pay your debt, which you really don't have one, and then you're re-enlisted back into slavery by white shareholders. Slaveholders. So, after the American Civil War, there was a law enacted where you could not loiter. You had to have a place to go. You could not be free. Have you ever been to a home and you saw a whole bunch of black people in that house? I know a house right now that has about 13 black people living there. Why? Because black people have to have some place to go. Have you ever seen that house in the hood or that house on your block where all black people are just hanging out on the front porch, drinking, smoking, telling jokes, whatnot? It's about 10 to 12 black people on the front porch. Why? because black people have to have somewhere to go. So what ends up happening is random black people who know they'll get in trouble for just being there, being out in the open, being on the street corner, they know they'll get questioned. They'll know someone will call the cops on them and say they look suspicious. So they must go congregate at a house so they don't appear suspicious. So you tell me, where can black people go where they can feel safe? Where can black people go where they can sleep? There was a black couple that was shot because they were, I'm sorry, two black men. They were in a car sleep and they were shot. They were killed because they were in a car sleep. So you can't sleep in a car now. So anybody listening to this video, tell me, what place do black people have in society? There is no place. Black teenagers not allowed to loiter. Young black girls not allowed to be out on the street. Black people must be in by a certain time. You're caught walking the street, you're suspicious. Two of you caught in a car, you're suspicious. You have to be somewhere at all time. Once you leave your house as a black person, you must have a purpose. Once you open the door and walk out, you have to be doing something. You have to be going to the store. You have to be dropping your kids off at school. You have to be going to a game. You have to be coaching something. Black people have to be occupied at all time, because God forbid you're idle and you have nothing to do and you're looking around, you automatically become a target. That's my video. Thank you for coming back to Queen Aphelia's channel. Have a great day.